Well, the hypothesis is that the performance might be better, and I might not talk about the lack of remembering what I had to say. But maybe it will not make any difference at all. So just going to be just staring blankly at a piece of paper.
Exactly.
Yes, I know. I mean, I've gone both ways. I like to just stand up here and chat sometimes. So I'm Jason Event. I've worked in Brighton for 20 years in video game development, and I've been in game development for probably about 30 overall. And one of my friends now, Joel Benton, who is a video games agent or business development person, said you only have to survive long enough in the game industry to get lucky once. And there are lots of examples of this. I think Chris at Future Lab was 20 years, a success 20 years in the making, an overnight success 20 years in the making. And my big overnight success was CSR racing, and we kind of got lucky once. And I've been living off that one piece of luck for over a decade so far. So hopefully it could continue for a long time. So after that I invested in the trailer farm and helped them grow, and then sold the company's keywords. And then most recently I invested in and helped out Future Lab, and then they sold back in last month to Miniclip. So those are great successes, but it really came from this first big lucky success when we did CSR. So I founded Boss Alien, where we created CSR racing, and after about a year, we knew it was going to be successful. We had soft launch data, and players were loving it and paying lots of money. The retention was great. But it wasn't really until it launched that it suddenly exploded, and it was a huge surprise. And it went from like nothing to, with no user acquisition, no marketing costs. It went to $12 million in the first month, and it only cost $1 million to make. It's exceptional. Yeah, you can't do that anymore. There's no way you can do that in mobile anymore. And 2 years later, so we sold to Natural Motion after that in that first year, and then 2 years later we sold Natural Motion to Zynga, and suddenly all my shares were worth something. Share options were worth something. So I had a 2-year earn out with Natural Motion and another 2-year earn out afterwards. So it was kind of like running a marathon, waiting to move on, and then running another marathon. It was bloody hard work. By the end of it, I was quite sick. So I had some time off after that. I kind of needed a break. But after that, then I went on to do some investment and some other stuff. So I've had sort of maybe 3 to 4 exits, depending on how you look at it. But it all started at one point and getting lucky, really, with CSR racing. So here's a quick summary of how I got there. So aside from working at large publishers like Electronic Arts and smaller developers like Attention to Detail up in Warwickshire, a few other bits and pieces, I started my career in Microprose, working on the XCOM games, and so the first half of my career was very much focused on console and PC, and where this kind of where the story really starts, because I think it's where we got the team together, was at Climax Racing here in Brighton, and they after working there for a few years, we sold that studio to Disney. And then it became BlackRock Studio, and the first game that we made was Pure on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. And it was an amazing time because we were a work-for-hire developer, and the maximum budgets we'd have had at the time were like $5 million or something. So it's quite hard to make anything great with $5 million. And suddenly, with Disney's money, we went from that to $15 million, $30 million. So we were let off the leash, and creatively we could kind of do whatever we liked. So suddenly we went from like making 6 or 7 out of 10 games to 8 and 9 out of 10 games. So it was really refreshing and really great. We were really invigorated. So this was Pure. It was like SXX on quad bikes, where you had these beautiful vistas, and you could do loads of tricks all the way down as you jumped these huge heights. And then we moved on to Split Second, which was a destruction car racing game, and it looked like this. See, when you're improvising, so you don't turn it over. Well, I did because I wasn't sure whether it would work, right? And I looked at this computer earlier on, and it had a notes page, albeit that I had to zoom out, and I thought it doesn't work. It never works, does it? Like I always bring, even if I'm doing a software demo, whenever I'm doing a software demo, I always bring a video, because otherwise you're just stuck. Yeah. Like what are you going to do? Just go home. So yeah, no, I've got a printout. So I've done this lots of times. Yeah. So BlackRock Studio was shut down in 2011 as Disney remembered they were a licensing company. And I remember getting a bit of a premonition of this, because we were going to do Toys to Life kind of game, and this was before before the big Activision one and before Disney Infinity. And I went round and said, well, where's the toy department? Okay, where's the toy department in this building? There is no toy department. It's just a licensing department. Because all the toys get made somewhere else. They get made by design agencies, or they get made by made in China or Taiwan or whatever, and then shipped back over, because Disney's a licensing company. And so I thought, okay, well, games is just another vertical. So at some point they're just going to give up and remember they're a licensing company for games. And so that's basically what happened. And so we were all kind of laid off. So I used my redundancy money to found Boss Alien, and that was how we started Boss Alien and made CSR. So most of the people who worked with us, Climax Racing and BlackRock, went on, interestingly, to found Electric Square and Gogol, which is like one of those are the two biggest studios in Brighton. You probably know this. So we're all kind of this like an alumni. Tony Blackwood, who used to run the studio, calls them what are they called? Black Pebbles. So there's like little rocks in both. But we resent that, because we like to think that we've become independent outside of that group. So they sold to Keywords in 2018 for 26 million. The directors of all those companies got their lucky once in that circumstance. And the Climax group, which Climax Racing came from, they were all over the country at one point, but they were the last sort of stand was done in Portsmouth, and they sold for over 40 million to Keywords also. So Keywords kind of bought everybody for a few years. Then you didn't get bought by Keywords, you get bought by Embracer Group. And that's part of the reason we were in the trouble we're in now, because of consolidation and expansion. So anyway, this studio, Climax Racing is no more, and BlackRock is no more, unfortunately. So that's what happens, with consolidation and as the move. It's just a part of the industry. It's just the way it works. The upside is that you grow something and sell it to a bigger fish, and the downside is that sometimes there's downturns and things close down and they're forgotten forever, unfortunately. So this was CSR. So I just want to put this in the timeline. So this was what we founded after BlackRock went down, and we made CSR Racing here. So I'll talk a lot about that later, but for the sake of the timeline, the next thing we did was we founded a studio called TT Odyssey, again based in Brighton, from a lot of the core alumni from Boss Alien and BlackRock before that, we made Lego Star Wars Battles on mobile. Originally it was going to be a free-to-play game, but we found that with license or restrictions we couldn't get a big LTV, and with the deprecation of IDFA, so you could no longer do targeted advertising on mobile, our cost of acquisition went from $1.50 to like $6.50. So it just wasn't going to work. So we had to, with a changing market, we had to adapt, and we had to, where we didn't get lucky this time, unlike when we got lucky with CSR, and the market wasn't right, and so we had to, we took up the opportunity of going on to Apple Arcade. So it was number one on Apple Arcade, in the top 10 for the year of launch. So it's done pretty well. And I think it's a pretty respectable return on investment for Warner Brothers, so it's not too bad. But it just goes to show that I don't have some kind of magic touch, and that I'm going to be successful every time. And it takes a degree of humility to admit that, realise that. I was certainly a lot more arrogant when I was younger, and working in-house where it was nice and safe. So. This was Lego Star Wars Battles, more pictures of that, and then back to CSR. So as I said at the beginning, the big pivot point in my life, my Jim's just texted me, was when we got laid off after BlackRock Studio closed down, and I brought a group of friends together from BlackRock to form Boss Alien. So myself and my business partner risked our redundancy money to create this new studio and bootstrap it for the first 3 months. Then we secured a publishing deal with Natural Motion. So that we were actually working on another game called High Chats for the first few months, and then we transitioned to CSR2 because we felt it was a stronger concept, and also to CSR because we thought it was a stronger concept, the street racer concept. And through the sort of 6 to 9 months it took to get to market, there were definitely points where it was terrifying and it felt like the like a Spitfire like that. It was very, very terrifying, very scary. But we came out of it. So and it was, and once we soft launched, once we verified it with customers, it was kind of plain sailing from that point. It just got better and better and better and better. And then when it came out, it made $12 billion in the first month. So and it went on to be $1 billion franchise, all from one crappy little office in Brighton on North Street with just 11 people. So we were kind of shocked and elated, and all of our customers for the first 6 months came to us organically. There was no user acquisition at all, which on mobile now would be completely unheard of. And I think it's because at the time it was a completely blue ocean. There were no real high-end 3D games on mobile, and iPhone had really only just kind of making that transition to free to play, and so we learned that we could use all of the tricks from Facebook games, where I said tricks, I mean more like techniques. I mean they get their gameplay mechanics really, for virality, for retention, for improving engagement, and for monetization. And they've been the game structure and the monetization techniques and the way that the game was put together was copied several times, most notably with a deer hunter game and with a sniper game. It was basically CSR but with different core game mechanics. So it works, and it worked well. We didn't know anything about working on mobile or on free to play, and indeed our peers, even those at BlackRock, were very cynical about working on mobile because it wasn't as powerful as PC and console that we've been working on before. It was perhaps not as prestigious, and free to play at the time was a dirty word, way more than it is now. At the time, the things were like League of Legends were really nascent, really just starting, and so people didn't like free to play at all. So we had to adjust our attitudes, be really open to it, have the humility and curiosity, and steer ourselves in the right direction. So although it was definitely a blue ocean, it was definitely easier than it is now. There were other challenges. The other challenges were there were no playbooks, and there were no frameworks to be able to follow. So we were really lucky. I have no doubt about that. But we didn't create the right circumstances, the right environment to invite luck in. We had a great team that worked together before. They worked on very high tech, difficult problems in the past. We had a great art team, a great code team. Although it was small, we had the kind of leaders in each group, and so that's one of the key points. This open attitude with humility and curiosity, and constantly researching, so admitting we don't know everything about this because it's a whole new world and we're new to it, so we need to go and do all the research and do the work. And there was a game called Drag Race as part of that research. There was a game called Drag Race Free, which had the proven core game mechanics. So we kind of wrapped those in the Need for Speed Underground kind of looking game. And we could do that because we had the high-end graphics and the techniques from working on console games. And then we created the story and the game structure and the monetization. The latter monetization retention is learning from techniques from Facebook and other free-to-play games. And then we had natural motion support. We had sufficient resources in terms of time, cost, and money, so that we could make the right time and money, so we could make the right quality decisions. And we were always very focused on the customer. We were always checking back to make sure that people were playing it and enjoying it. And as soon as we could, we soft launched. And as soon as we could, we got out. So it was CSR when it came out. It was a very small game. It was single player only. You had 5 stages, in each stage, five mini bosses in each stage, and then 5 bosses in the entire game, and that was it. And for 6 months that worked. But we were frantically trying to make more content and get to multiplayer so that we'd have a bit more of a runway to develop new features. But it was the right place at the right time. It was nascent iPhone market, and it was just as free to play was being birthed at that point. So what we're doing now, I founded a new studio with the same founder core group of people that came from TGOC. It's called Hardball Games. It's formed in 2022, and we've been working on a 16-player mega brawler for PC consoles. Got PC and consoles called Outrage Fight Fest. And it's really fun and it's really good. I mean, it looks like this. This is a video of it, and I'll shut up for a bit. No, again. So I have no idea really whether we'll be lucky this time. I mean, it looks good, it plays well, there's lots of different game modes, lots of different ways to play. It could be a good platform for us to build upon, because you've got some core gameplays that nobody's really seen before. The way you play it is a bit different to other beat 'em ups. It's really accessible, and if you look at the way that first person, there's hundreds of different first person shooters. I think that with those core basic mechanics, there's lots of different things we could do with these core mechanics that could keep the game going for a long period of time. People seem to like it, but it's a huge gamble, and it seems like in the current market, making a good game is not really enough. We're in a situation at the moment where, because of the COVID hangover, promising 30% year-on-year growth and delivering 3% growth, investors have kind of gone off games. And publishers are really hurting, all their share prices are down, there's mass layoffs, a lot of the games are underperforming, and there's an oversupply of indie games. Gamers are spending a lot more time in older games and game services like Fortnite, World of Tanks, Call of Duty, FIFA, GTA Online. And there was this Newzoo report recently that said that only 8% of revenue from 2023 was from games made in 2023. So that just shows you that it's just completely impenetrable right at the moment to get your new game kind of recognised and played. So it's a really tough time to be developing a self-publishing game. It's the opposite of the clear blue ocean that we launched CSR Racing into back in 2012. And I think we're doing stuff that's different. It plays well. People recognise it as being different. And we've got a plan to get there in terms of marketing. We've got a great marketing team. There's a load of external consultants, and we've got a bit of a budget. And I think we've done everything we can do in terms of like prepping it for Steam and doing the announcements and having trailers. And we're next fest in a couple of weeks' time. But it still might not work. Now that's a huge gamble, and I think this is part of the reason why investors have gone off games a bit, because it is and has always been a gamble. But there was this mirage of success during the 2 years of COVID when everybody could do nothing else. So I think what we should do as a group is like go to a Chinese. Open a window or something. And it's really, I really hated it. I really hated not being able to go out. So I'm not really a proponent of that. So we funded Hardball through via angel investors and VC funding, which is great. It's a great model because then they're very hands off. You've got the money, and away you go. But I was planning on having another round of funding. So in terms of what I thought, where I expected to be now, I wasn't expecting to be releasing very quickly. And then towards the end of last year, all the money taps turned off. Publishers suddenly didn't have money to deploy because they had lots of failed games. They were a lot more careful. Their share price was lower, so they had less capital to invest. And it's the same with VCs. They've been much more reticent to spend. I think they got bitten a bit by Web3, where they put a load of money in and didn't get much back. And they've reinvested in games that were very optimistic. And so it's tough now to get money. So we have enough cash to finish the game and get to PC early access. And I made the decision to pivot back in November, so we've had plenty of time. So we're going to be able to get to early access in July. and we've got enough money to kind of keep us going and recognise revenue, plenty of time. But if I hadn't have acted earlier, I think we'd have been we'd been more in trouble now. It's good that I'm cynical about the ability to raise money. We have enough. So you know, I hope it's going to work and we'll get lucky. But you know, it's tough. It's really tough at the moment, so I don't know whether it's going to work. So you know, if I've learned anything in the last decade, it's that you can't assume you'll be successful every time. And I remember the year after releasing CSR, doing a develop talk and saying, I probably won't be able to do this again. And I was right. That's
so far.
Oh, yeah, maybe, yes, so far. You know, and I've had a great time trying. You know, it's really fun making these games, and so. You know, I'm going to carry on doing it for as long as I can. It's the business of making games is really fun. So that's it. That's it for me. Has anybody got any questions?
Hi there. Really grateful. Really good to hear your career and how it's been and the kind of ups and downs and that journey. What's the kind of, and this is the hard work probably answer on the spot, what's the best bit of advice that you received, like maybe sharing this?
Well, that's a really big question, isn't it?
Maybe we'll come back later.
Yeah. I could maybe tell you some advice that I'd received.
Yeah. That you found useful.
Yeah. Get the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus. That's about team. And use your experts. And using experts outside of the team and being open to that, and making sure that everybody on the team is open to that. Like if I had a game that had a DAU of over 1 million, I would come and speak to you. It's not relevant for me at the moment. Yeah. So those are two pieces. I don't know if they're the most important. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to make sure that my kids understand compound interest. That's the kind of dad I am. I would do revision all week. Yeah. Anything else?
So, Outrage Fight Pass, you're planning on releasing it on Steam early access. Are you planning on like releasing to more platforms to expand your reach?
Yes.
Or is it like just Steam first, Steam Deck, early access maybe?
No. So yeah. My original plan, if I was going to get another few billion quid, would be to release simultaneously on all the different platforms at the same time. And maybe we consider doing some kind of hybrid free-to-play or some kind of free-to-play. We manage to do that. But I can't afford that. It's really expensive to do that. So it's better for us to make a premium game, release into early access, and then hopefully make enough money that we can build up a marketing war chest for the full launch and then get to console. But we've got all of the 3 consoles and gathering dust in the corner. It works on PlayStation 5 and Xbox 360, so it's going to get there in the end.
Cool. Do you plan to use the early access momentum to raise more funding?
Yeah, that's yeah. So a lot of the feedback has been we need KPIs if we're going to do follow-on or we're going to do investment, and the KPI, but it's a bit chicken and egg, isn't it? I don't know why they call themselves venture capital. There's not much venture. Once you've got the KPIs, don't need money anymore. If you've got the balls, you can do debt financing, and then you don't have to, you know. So if you, it used to be with a mobile machine. If you got a mobile machine, you could scale it with debt. Probably what King do a lot of the time. If you know that your lifetime value is significantly higher than your cost of acquisition, and you know where you're going to target, which audience targets you're going to segment, which audience segments you're going to target, then you can just say, well, look, here's the sheet. Can you give me 1 million quid or 10 million quid? I mean, that's what was happening for Playdemic and Gold Clutch for a long time. They were just going, just give us money. It's good. We can print you more. Yeah. So that's the goal. Yeah. Get to that point. Anything else? All right. Cool. Well, thank you very much for listening.